see. Hi, love you guys. Thank you for hanging in there with me. Um, just waiting on the doctor to join. I'm excited about this session. This session is all about expectations. Oh, hi. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, hi.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Wonderful. Thank you.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much for joining us.
My pleasure. I am so pleased to be here. You are doing such a service for so many people in making mental health a priority and making it more transparent and available to everyone. So the knowledge that you're giving us and making us more aware of what it takes to be a healthy human being is invaluable. So thank you very much.
Oh my God, thank you so much for saying that so
Yeah.
much to me. I know. I
Meant,
was
meant
saying,
with all my heart.
you what?
I said, meant with all my heart. It's,
Ah,
it's important to have these discussions.
it is. It is. I was just actually saying I didn't sleep well last night. So my anxiety is like, when you don't sleep well and it's just like your anxiety brain is on because of it. So it's like, it's so perfect that we're doing this today.
Deep breath.
So I've been, talking about the four was all about expectations. And I obviously have had a lot of those in my life and have learned to, really have goals, but to not put high expectations because that's when we're disappointed. And that can obviously lead to more anxiety and depression. What I thought was really cool was obviously this session teaches you to become more effective and less affected. And sessions that I think when I did this book a couple years ago that I didn't even realize I had in my vocabulary that what I was doing, but she says that expectations and shoulds often go beyond yourself to everything and everyone around you. And the should part is like, I even did that last night. Like I should be sleeping. And I was like, oh my God, I said that word. Like that's where it's like, it kind of messes with you a little bit. And so I really liked this because I feel like I don't really have high expectations of others, but I do have high expectations with myself. And I had to really learn like it's okay to be goal oriented, but not be like expecting so much where you are just letting yourself.
Have expectations and go into creating a goal or finishing a goal because you love what you're doing. And then the expectations and the accolades and everything else come from that. But if you go in saying, I have an expectation, I don't know, that I'm going to get the lead in so and so and so and so, and you don't, you get a supporting role. Or is that going to put you into a cycle of depression and anxiety? So
Yeah.
if you go in and you audition, and I'm just using that as an example because that's one that refrains from me, is that if you go in and you do your best in audition and you do it with all your heart and soul, whatever happens from that is going to be the reward that you will have for doing your job 100%.
I know. I completely agree with that because I've always been someone who, when it comes to work in ways like I've always been like, it's just trying your best because in the business that I'm in, obviously there's like 80% rejection. So there's a lot of stuff that I haven't gotten auditioned for. So I've always been like, try your best and not. Success is that you then start to put expectations on projects and you forget when you started how it was all about passion. And so I do think that there is like some of the most successful things I've ever done was because I was just having fun. There was no expectation to it. There wasn't like we knew that this like was going to be huge. It was like we were just having fun doing it. And I think it messes with a lot of people that I know, I with like age, and I've seen people that I've grown up with who are, you know, obviously composers or directors, or they put this thing on themselves being like, I should be at this point in my career and have this expectation, or they put these goals in their mind like at this age I should be.
Back in. If you're
Mm-hmm.
doing something that you enjoy, you will succeed. And if you're
Yeah.
starting to play and you don't know how to do it, and all of a sudden you are excited and full of passion, you will do it. And also, you know, the expectations can also be aided by support. You know, if you feel as though you really need help to get to a goal or get to something that you are looking forward to doing, there is no reason that you can't have support and help to do it.
Yeah. Yeah. That's so true.
Not
I
in
know.
this alone. Hmm.
What were you saying?
You're not in this alone.
Yeah. Yeah. That is very true. I know. I think that it's just, it's something that I didn't realize. I think you just don't even realize you're doing it to yourself until you sit back and you read something like this session and you're like, oh yeah, I've been doing that for a minute now. So, um, so I felt like this one is obviously so, so great. You know, it also goes into diet and how diet affects anxiety and depression and what foods are good for you. That's session 5. And obviously what vitamins are good for you and can help. What are your thoughts on that? Do you see like eating certain foods, eating too much of or drinking too much of coffee can like obviously trigger your anxiety? Like what do you think about that?
But I truly believe beans and a couple of carbohydrates and a little bit of sugar is really something that will get you going. I think that each body is different. And once again, to the notion of getting help. If you need help, go to a nutritionist and have that person help you plan a diet that's going to be energy producing and not energy depleting. And
Yeah.
of course, we all have our comfort foods. I know that when I get anxious and I get a little bit depressed, I take to my bed with my bonbons, or I call them my bonbons, but it would be like oatmeal for me. Comfort foods that
Yeah.
really touch our soul.
Yeah.
Do you?
I realize
Yeah.
that when I get this, I tend to like want to eat more. Is
Hmm.
that
That's not unusual. That's
okay?
not, but that's probably because you're filled with anxiety and worry. And what you have to get we
I
can't put ourselves.
Yeah, it's so true. I actually did have like basically anxiety attack while driving the other day. And it was because I had just done Pilates and my blood sugar dropped because I
Oh,
hadn't had it yet.
yeah.
And it was like 2 p.m. So I was like and I'm driving. What do you like, what would you say to do in those certain situations?
In that situation, I would say you would start by feeling your breath and start breathing, because
Mm,
right now driving, you're on the PCH or wherever you are, and you're not going to be able to stop and pull over right away. So you want to take
Is not going to end well, but there's like the negative thinking. And so I will definitely try that breathing. I love that, like breathing in 4 and then holding and then letting go. It's actually something that I recently have kind of found for myself throughout this book right now, is that I've come up for like a mantra for myself, which is let go. And anytime I start to feel anxious and I'm like, oh, here comes anxiety, I just kind of remember, just let go. And it kind of like I acknowledge the anxiety, but it's like reminding myself that I'm going to be okay and just like let go in this moment.
exactly. It's so that you're observing it, but you're not in it. You're saying,
Yes.
my goodness, I am having an anxiety attack. But when you step back and you observe things, you don't feel things as much. So you have a little bit of a distance from it. So that's a
Yeah.
wonderful skill to have. And that takes skill building. That's something that you have to learn how to do. I don't think that comes very naturally, but it's
No,
wonderful to get.
obviously I've learned throughout this process is like, obviously I did this book 6 years ago and it really helped me and changed my life because it's dedicating that time to learning about all of these things and the tools to help you. And so I love revisiting it just because recently I've had kind of anxiety just come back very strong. And so I was like, it's time to revisit that book. And that's why I wanted to do this and share it with everybody, just because it is so helpful. And I feel like everyone is kind of going through something right now. So
Get that vitamin D.
mm,
That is so important. I think during the pandemic, people came to me and how am I going to do this? What am I going to do? And I started walking therapy. I started to walk with my clients. So we would be outside and talk at the same time that we're walking. And I still believe in the power of nature and the power of the sun. And the vitamin D is very important to get out there and get some exercise outside and smell the roses in a very trite way. And I think that there is
I think we lost you. Oh no. Are you there?
you're a holistic practitioner or someone to recommend what works for you on your own. And not because I don't think we're cookie cutters. I think,
Yeah.
yes, outside and getting vitamin D is a cookie cutter thing, but needing certain vitamins more than other vitamins is something that's very individual. And you should take the time to and the effort to find out what your body needs.
Yeah. I think that that's kind of And to me, self-love is taking the time to do all this work. That if you have something going on in your life and you do struggle with anxiety and depression, it's really that self-love that will get you to open the book, that will help, like, because it's like if you do the work, you could live such a like more stress-free and less anxiety producing life. It's just some people, like anytime I've had friends reach out and they're like, "Hey, what do you do for this?" And I was like, "Oh, this is a great book." And they look at, "Oh, it's 15 sessions." Like that's a really long time. And I'm like, "But you're dealing with something that's making you uncomfortable." Like you can help
Right.
you.
Help it. I
Yeah.
I think
But
you said, Ashley, and you said that it's work, just like achieving anything in life. In order to achieve mental and physical health, it does require work. It does require passion. It does require persistence. And you will step one step back and two steps in front and one step forward and two steps back. But the idea is that it makes you feel
so worth it. And I always say to people too, like, how long have you been dealing with this? And then, like, that's usually for years. So it's like it's going to take the time to help get better and through it. So I think that's important to remember that it does take time, but it's so worth it, like you're saying. Um, what else do you have
yes.
with anxiety?
Yeah, no, I do. I think that one of the most important things that I have learned through the pandemic is that we need close people to each other. We need to appreciate them and we need to have them close and care about them the way they care about you. That
Mhm.
reciprocity is very important. And our needs now are for closeness and not to be lonely. And to so reach out and make a friend and be real and be honest because there's nothing like a friendship based on honesty rather than superficial nonsense, which
Yeah.
doesn't mean you can't talk about superficial nonsense because that's a lot of fun, but it's also based on your feeling and you're listening to a friend and your friend listening to you. And we
Yeah.
have to be real in our relationships and count on our relationships because we don't live in this world by ourselves. And we have to include and treasure the people that we love.
Yeah. No, I totally believe that as well. I feel like one of the things that has happened during the pandemic for me personally, and I think for maybe a lot of people, is like relationships have changed.
Right.
And I think that that's not always a negative thing because there's also a lot of new people that came into my life that I've bonded with and kind of connect with on a different level. And so I think that as much as there's like people I don't see as much as I did before,
Mhm.
that it's okay. And I'm such a extrovert, like I love being around people, and it was hard to kind of be, obviously at home. I was pregnant, so I really didn't want to see people because I was being really extra safe. But now I'm there where I'm like, okay, you have to. It feeds your soul to like be around people and see friends and see your loved ones. Like that's so important. And I think that's also important in recovery of anxiety and depression.
Oh, for sure. And honestly, the more that you give, the more you'll get back. If
Hmm.
you have a relationship that is built on trust and honesty, the more that you give to someone else, the more that you will get back. So don't be afraid to be vulnerable and to give to your friends and your loved ones.
I love that. I love. Well, thank you so much for joining us. You are so sweet for doing this.
Oh my goodness, this was so wonderful for me too. Thank you. Anytime, Ashley. And I'm really so proud of what you're doing. It's so important that we women start to get out there and say it's okay to be vulnerable. It's okay to be anxious. It's okay to be depressed. And there are ways to help and we can support each other. So thank you very much.
Thank you. And where can we find you?
Instagram is Cat Smurls, KAT dash SMERLS.
Oh my
And,
gosh.
and you'll find my website there too. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Have an
Thank
amazing
you
day.
so much. It's been a pleasure. Have a wonderful day. Bye.
Bye.